Welcome to 101. I'm Greg Bassett, your host from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. It's election time in Salisbury. The candidates are in the House, and today we've got from District 2, Muir Boda, who's a member of the Salisbury City Council. Welcome, Muir.
Thank you, Greg.
So you're unopposed.
Yes, sir.
But we want to have you on because you're running for re-election.
Always a pleasure to be on.
And you represent District 2, which is my favorite district in town. It's that that area there in the middle of town. Talk about District 2.
So District 2 is basically half of the Doverdale neighborhood. It gets about 3/4 of the Church Street area from one end to the other. And then it covers over near the Prince Street Elementary School. And in that area of town, there's about 3 districts that jump in and out. Like on one side of the street, you'll be in one district. On the other side, you'll be in another. And it's real confusing in that area of town.
Do you find this with your voters, like they're not sure what district they live in?
I think in some of those areas that's an issue. I even think last time Kevin Lindsay, when he ran, he thought he was in District 1.
Right.
And he filed and he found out he was in District 3.
Right.
So, there's some confusion about the lines and stuff.
So you've been on the council now for 4 years. You're the vice president.
Yes, sir.
How's it going? How do you feel about your accomplishments on the council?
Very proud of what we've accomplished over the last 4 years. There's some big things that we've done, but there's also I think some little things that people don't see. When we first got on, when in the budget process, one of the things that was kind of confusing and was the fees and all that for the city. So they were kind of like discombobulated in different places. And I asked early on, I said, can we get like one document that lists all the fees? And so they said, yeah, we can put that together. So they put something together with most of the fees, and then over the next couple of years, it was like, oh, we forgot this when we added it in. And then now what we do with that list is we add it as a resolution as a part of the budget process to adopt all the fees. Because it's much clearer, it's much more transparent, and I think it's also easier for staff if somebody calls and says, hey, what's this fee? And then now we have them all listed and they can just go look for whatever department. So I think that's one little thing that we don't, might not seem like a big thing, but I think it's makes the process more transparent and a little more efficient for our employees and much easier for our citizens to be able to quickly identify what a fee is.
We've got a dynamic mayor. People gravitate toward him. He's got lots of ideas. Council kind of holds him in checks and balances. What's the role like? What's it like dealing with a mayor like the one we have?
So I think one of the things, was great for me, is some of the things I advocated for in 2009 and 2011. He comes along and philosophically on a lot of the city stuff, we're in line. And I think the council, early on, we had that goal setting session, and which kind of like, hey, what are the things we want to accomplish over the next 4 years? And everybody got on the same page. And I think that kind of really helped. And, certainly there are issues that, we've disagreed with the mayor on. There's issues Jack and I have disagreed on. But we don't let those take center stage and derail us from our mission. If we disagree, we disagree. We vote on it. Whichever way it goes, then we move on. That, I think, has been a great balance to what's going on. But yeah, it's been interesting. I mean, it's likely to say in the past 4 years more has been accomplished and the groundwork laid for a lot of things that have been done in the past 20 years.
Right, and you used to watch the council, and I think you ran because of this, but there was a lot of tension on the council in the past, a lot of egos that couldn't quite got in the way of a lot of stuff. But you guys don't seem to have that.
And I think when you really want to accomplish things, you have to set that aside, because we're not there for my ego, we're not there for Jack's ego, we're there to serve the citizens of the city, and ultimately those are the ones who pay our paycheck. Those are the ones who every 4 years they evaluate our jobs, and it's our job to listen to them. One issue is the fencing ordinance. There was a lot of people, regular citizens, who didn't like it, and so we ended up not passing the ordinance.
Right.
And that's our job. Just because we might want to go full steam ahead with something, if you get
you
a lot
all
of people
really wanted it, and there was some backlash on it, and you guys stopped on that. I was kind of surprised. I thought you were going to push it through.
Well, I mean, there was some that wanted it. I was questionable on the issue, but once you really see a lot of people, when you have residents coming in with buttons that say "I love my fence,"
right.
It's like, okay, there's and that was probably one issue I got more phone calls and emails about than any other issue.
Yeah.
There was a couple other issues, but this was probably like the number one that people were upset about.
I'm not sure it's an election issue, but it's one that you've been involved in here lately, and you're the first council member I've been able to talk to since it came up. The idea of Salisbury having its own alcohol board. Do you want to talk about that situation and what's behind that?
So, as we were moving through the reorganization of the city over the past few years, there were multiple things that we wanted to do, and so we prioritized, and we knew that, and this was one of those items on there was moving this under the auspices of the city. So we tackled some of the things that we could easily get done, and some of them took some time to do. The fire marshal thing took some time to transition. So we wanted to make sure we were checking off those other things, and this one was going to be the heavy lift, and mainly because we have to have legislation through Annapolis. About 2 or 3 years ago, Mark Tillman and I were working on the model that we wanted to use, which
He's
is
the city attorney.
Yeah, and but I had done some research and brought in the Annapolis model because they're the ones that, they've been doing it for over 50 years. And so this is strictly the Board of License Commissioners, and appointed by the mayor and the council. There's 5 members, and it's a volunteer board. So the ones on the county are currently paid. But in the city, other than the election board, everything else is a volunteer. And so this was our goal for this, to model it after Annapolis, and theirs has worked very well. And in our position is a majority of the license anyway are that are done in the county are done in the city, and we don't have a say on that board. We don't have a seat on that board, and we just feel with the process of in our one-stop job shop, this is if you're coming in to do a restaurant and you're going to serve beer and wine. This is your one more thing on your application. Just fill this out. The whole packet goes together, and it's one less place they got to go to track down to try to figure out how to get the license. So we think it's going to be extraordinarily helpful in that regard. So we're in conversations now with our legislators, and so we're hoping to have that bill dropped this January.
And it's sort of symbolic of what's going on between the city and the county in terms of a relationship. You've been pretty vocal on that. Been pretty critical of how the county maybe treats the city. You want to talk about that a little bit?
I think sometimes it's, the tax differential is a huge issue. We pay a full share county taxes, and we have our own police department. We have a paid fire department that also serves county residents. Our planning commission, our fire marshal, all those other daily basic services the city provides to our taxpayers. We don't receive those. Our trash goes to the landfill, but we pay for that service. So there's it's fair to say that the city residents should pay a lower county property tax rate, and you evaluate out what you would consider is the valuation for education. Fine with that, but I think as far as like some of the other services, I think we should have a discounted tax rate on that, and I think there's some block on some of the ones that even want to have that conversation, and it's been like that for forever. But we're the last county. I mean, Worcester County kind of does a grant to Ocean City.
Right.
But as far as we're the last county, one of the last, there's two counties that still have a dispensary.
Right.
And then we're, one of the last counties that still has a tax differential. So we think that's probably the bulk of the issue. But I still think that on some things, now when I say the county, we're typically referring to one office. County council members, we have a great relationship with them. I have a great relationship with all of them. But there's the unfortunate position of the top position. There's been a lot of friction there, and some of it, we're not quite sure where it all comes from, but it's frustrating. And I mean, it's a job that should be easy. You can show up and take credit for a lot of good things that are happening in your community, not be antagonistic to those good things.
One of the basic questions I'm asking is, people say with all the focus on downtown, which is just terrific, that takes focus off the neighborhoods. I mean, can we do one and not the other, or how does all that work?
Well, I mean, it's not like all the city employees are working downtown.
Yeah.
They work through. They take care of our parks. They take care of our streets. There's a much more equally distributed street sweeping schedule now. Before, I had lived in Doverdale for almost 9-10 years, and maybe once or twice I saw the street sweeper in that time. I see the street sweeper now every month on a regular basis. So there's some things that have been fixed or changed, and we're getting on a better schedule of paving streets now that we got our HURs back. But downtown is the cultural center of our city, and a lot that's happening down there. Things like parking lots that should have been sold and developed 50 years ago, we're doing that now. The Main Street project, I mean, it's a stormwater and infrastructure project of replacing, in some cases, infrastructure that's 100 years old. So some of it's much needed in that corridor. But it's the heart of our city, and it's something that we have to, even in life, you have to take care of your heart, and the same thing for a city.
You're going back on the council in November. What's the one big thing or two big things you want to make sure you work on in your next term?
Well, I mean, seeing through the Alcohol Control Board, if it doesn't get through this session, we're going to fight for it for the next session. And I think it's just, the big thing is moving forward with the things that we're doing. And, making sure, our budgetary process, continues to get better. We've had, a couple years with audits of clean audits, no notes. So, making sure that we keep a good team of leaders in place in our city because they're doing a great job. And, you don't want to just, uproot and, drain the swamp, as some of them say, because, these people aren't the swamp. These people run your city. They're professionals, and they're great people. And I think it's unfortunate that some people want to characterize them that way when that's so far from the truth.
How can your constituents reach you, find out more about you, get a hold of you?
Email address is mboda@salisbury.md, and my cell phone number is 443-397-0247.
City Council Vice President Muir Boda, he's running for re-election in District 2. He's unopposed, and we're thrilled that he had time to be with us here today. Thanks, Muir, for being here.
Thank you, Greg.
I'm Greg Bassett from the Salisbury Independent Newspaper, a special election edition of 101 right here on PAC 14.
First Shore Federal is proud to support PAC 14 and one-on-one. We'd encourage every business to support PAC 14 and pick a program and support it, and let's make a difference.
You can find all of our election coverage on the PAC 14 YouTube page.